Prime Minister insisted that he's absolutely not slowing down efforts to combat climate change a day after weakening a host of pledges designed to help the UK reach net zero by 2050. But the shift has drawn fierce criticism from some and could face a legal challenge. Rishi Sunak has been out and about this morning. Let's take a look at what he's been saying.
I can say confidently that we don't have to do these things, whether it's government mandating how many people drive in cars, government saying that you need to have 7 bins, or being forced to rip out your boiler in the short term or install energy efficiency measures which could have cost you £5,000, £10,000, £15,000, or change your car earlier than is necessary. Those are all things that we shouldn't and won't do.
I've got to say, very brave to do an interview in front of all those sheep. That's not how a sheep goes.
I thought it was a sheep.
I heard it mooing.
I heard it mooing. So I thought it was a cow.
Right.
Hi.
Are you all right this morning?
Sorry, hi.
Well, I also
It's
thought
been
it
a
was
long day.
cow. I thought it was a cow.
It sounded like a cow.
I think there were cows
right.
in
We're
the
cow
thing next
cheaters.
door.
Let's go back to Rishi Sunak. Owen, what do you make? Apparently you won't have to pay meat tax, flight tax, you won't have to have 7 bins or do any car sharing.
You were never going to have to do that anyway, I'm just saying.
I'm glad you've said that, actually. That is commendable. You see, the thing is, the one thing you're not supposed to say in British public life, it's seen as extremely impolite, is to call someone a liar. But our Prime Minister, the Prime Minister of the country, Rishi Sunak, is a liar. It is absolutely not... And the fact is, sorry, just to show how ludicrous this is, I am now defending the Conservative government against the false accusations levelled against it by a Conservative Prime Minister. They were never going to introduce compulsory car sharing. What drugs is that guy on to even suggest that was a proposal in the first place? Even the bins, because people start getting pernickety about this. It is not true. Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, DEFRA, issued a statement making it clear that was never going to be the case, mandating 7 bins. There's 7 different streams of collection. That's a different matter altogether. Neither was the meat tax. What Rishi Sunak is doing is abandoning the solemn net zero commitments the Conservative Party stood on in the last general election. Hence, the former Prime Minister Boris Johnson has himself denounced Rishi Sunak. That's one thing. The second thing is, what it actually means, not these nonsense made-up policies that were never going to happen. If you look at cars and what they're doing with cars, which is no new diesel and petrol cars, that now is being kicked from 2030 to 2035, that's going to cost people more money. It is what David Cameron did before when he got rid of all the green CRAP. People remember that. That meant scrapping the insulation programme. That meant we ended up paying more fuel bills. It's the same with this, because what happens is 80% of car buyers buy old cars. They buy second-hand cars. What this means in practice, because obviously diesel and petrol cars will be on the markets for decades to come because they'll be second-hand or third-hand, it means electric vehicles, second-hand ones, which is when they get cheaper, won't come on the market. People will end up paying more money. So what he's done is he's thrown people's living standards under a bus. He's thrown economic stability under a bus, and he's abandoned our commitments on climate. He's a liar and a charlatan.
Fine, I've got to wrap it up. It's important to say the 2035 deadline now is in line with the rest of the EU. So in a sense, he is bringing us in line with the rest of the EU.
Do we want to be a world beater or not?
OK, fine, but it's important to say that it is in line
We're already very high up on in the league
Isabel,
table.
Has he won you over?
Look, no, he hasn't won me over. I don't think he's gone nearly far enough. Now, where I will agree with Owen is that we are at levels of next-level deception when political leaders, prime ministers, announce in a giant fanfare that they're not going to do things they were never going to do anyway and expect to get plaudits for that. It's utterly absurd. They were never going to do the meat tax and all the rest of the things. But I think he is absolutely right to row back from a number of these commitments because we are going too hard and too fast. It is disproportionate. And where I completely disagree with Owen is that this is going to make people poorer. It will demonstrably not make them poorer, which the policies were going to do. So, forcing people to introduce heat pumps into their homes, completely absurd. The heat pumps don't work and they cost thousands of pounds.
Wait. One second. How are we forcing people to put heat pumps? I mean, people were never going to have heat pumps
They were.
unless your boiler broke down. If your boiler's still working, you don't have to have a heat pump.
We all know eventually your boiler breaks down. I mean, there's no indefinite boilers.
But then you're going to have £7,500 towards a heat pump.
But the heat pumps don't work.
We can't say heat pumps don't work when Finland are using them and places that are much colder than us use them and rely on them.
Just on that, heat pumps do work and they're used very successfully in other countries and there's a consensus around them. You get government aid to upgrade when your boiler breaks. And if you stick to gas boilers, what that means is we are dependent on gas. And what happens, as we can see, given we import gas from the likes of Putin's Russia, is you are then at the mercy of spikes which drive up your bills. That's why we need to get a heat pump.
Let's pause because there's a lot to say on this. Let's hear from John in North Yorkshire. John, good afternoon. Has he won you over?
Well, can I just say congratulations on getting the two best people on the panel, Isabel Oakeshott.
Oh, John.
and
Bless you.
Flattery will get you everywhere, John.
Tear one of us apart now.
They give good arguments on any subject. Sunak's done a complete U-turn in climate change, and he's doing his job. It's the state of democracy, the state of the country. His job is to get votes to stay in Parliament. That's what he's there for. He wants to win over the electorate. It's tactical voting. I'm against it.
When you say it's democracy, John,
to climate change, it will affect people in the future.
OK, but John, pause there for a second. When you say democracy, it was in the 2019 manifesto. Yes. All these things were in there.
In Labour's manifesto too, in the Lib Dem manifesto, and the SNP, the vast majority of the public voted.
Essentially, the last sort of polling, if you like, where people went to vote, they wanted all this stuff. So now he's turning away from it.
It's a U-turn. It's a U-turn in our attempts of climate change. We were doing quite well. There's 192 countries in the world, and we're the top leaders of getting rid of the problem that we're doing. I think it's going to increase the problem that we've got in the world that we've got. We should have a combined... In fact, wouldn't it be a good idea to have, like the United Nations, a united effort for every country in the world to tackle climate change? But clearly he's doing it to get votes. It will make life comfortable until 2035 for all of us. Okay. But it is a U-turn, and I think there's lack of planning all the way through. It's just reckless behaviour. All right. I'm against his decision.
OK, John, thank you for calling in. Thanks for being so nice to the guests as well. It doesn't happen very often.
Like I hate them. I hate
Robert,
them both.
Robert in Lincolnshire. Good afternoon, Robert. Has he won you over?
No, he's well, in a way he has. Anyway, good afternoon to your panel. The reason why I'm for Rishi Sunak, I think he's now started to realise that he's trying to run before he can walk, to be honest.
In what way, Robert?
Well, in a way that he's trying to force all this green onto this small island. We are an island which is now producing less CO2s and that into the atmosphere than any other part of the planet, like China, Russia, and he's trying to force it on us. I live near a main road, which I've seen electric cars catch on fire. Literally, I live near the A17, and I've seen electric cars catch on fire on that A17. They're frightening.
I mean, I've seen loads of combustion engine cars catch on fire as well. So, I mean, it's something that happens.
There's no evidence that electric cars are less dangerous in that regard than petrol and diesel.
But no, go ahead. Finish your point, though, Robert.
And I think that we're running forward. Our infrastructure, for one thing, is not built up enough at the moment to accommodate electric cars. Okay. I'm going back a few years now. In 1966, we went from. I'm going to do this because this is about the climate. 1966, we went from coal gas to North Sea gas. Yeah. Then move on from there. Oh, we're doing away with leaded petrol because it affects children and our health and the planet. We went to unleaded, perfectly fine.
Of why short-term decisions, basically, have terrible long-term consequences. David Cameron scrapped the National Insulation Programme, and he did it on the basis of saving money, but it ended up costing more money, because what that means is fuel bills ended up being higher because people don't have insulated homes and businesses. And it's the same thing here. Yes, of course, we have to build up more for electric cars. Norway are way down the track compared to us, for example. But what it doesn't mean, it's really important you understand this, it doesn't mean in 2030, but as it was before, that petrol and diesel cars were going to be banned. It just meant there was going to be no new production of them. They're still going to be on our roads for decades and decades to come. What it means is it will turbocharge efforts to make our infrastructure ready for electric vehicles, and it will end up saving money the quicker we do it, because you get then second-hand electric vehicles on the market. You delay that, people end up paying more money. That's the problem.
Isabel?
Robert, I just want to really quickly challenge something that Alexis said and see whether you agree with me. He said that everyone had voted for this because it was in the last Conservative Party manifesto. I don't think we've ever had a proper national debate about net zero and whether people want to actually sign up to these policies. And I don't think voters feel that they've had their say on this. The implications were never set out honestly for voters. They were never detailed. And I think people want their say. And I think if you ask them, the nation would reject the net zero agenda.
When you saw that...
I'm asking Robert, not you.
Well, he agrees.
Yeah, I totally agree with you.
See?
I do agree with you.
I knew that.
OK, all right, Robert, thank you. I want to take another call. Doug is in West Midlands. Good afternoon, Doug. Has he won you over?
Absolutely not. I've only just finished laughing. Good afternoon, panel. No, it was ironic. Rishi Sunak was standing with a load of sheep behind him, trying to pull the wool over everybody's eyes.
Oh,
very good. Very good, Doug.
I hope newspaper writers listen to you there and they're just changing their copy to make sure.
If you see it appear, we know where it happened. Go on then, Doug.
Yeah, but the fact of the matter is, and I'm sure that the panel will agree, is that there's an awful lot of duplicity in government. I can't say any other word that fits them. But it's not a case that they're worried about climate and climate change. The real guts of it all is that if they end petrol cars and diesel cars, they are going to lose a phenomenal amount of money with the tax that's put on petrol and diesel. And therefore, it's all about finance, as it always well is. And as long as it suits whoever he's got the ball in the hand at the time, then that's how it will go. But it's nothing to do with climate change or the contracts or cars or anything. It's about the tax on the petrol and the diesel.
A really important point about how ordinary people save money, because people won't be paying for petrol and diesel and the taxes that go on them because they're going to be having electric vehicles which are cheaper
cost
to
an
run.
absolute fortune.
No,
I mean, they're
much
just
cheaper
not affordable though. To buy the capital cost is not affordable.
But this is the point. If you have mass production of electric vehicles, the costs go down precipitously. So if you delay the transition, then you delay the mass production of electric vehicles and then getting cheaper.
Okay.
This is why it's a false economy. You end up spending more money.
Electric vehicles are not quite as environmentally friendly as they seem.
Let's pause there. Because we are going to continue with this subject. Thanks for all your calls with that. Thank you, Doug.